a Series 1 offer for sale, 575 million shares held by the MTN Group in MTN Nigeria, which is the offer to Nigerian investors, has been successfully completed. The offer was 139.4% oversubscribed, activating the allocation of an additional 86.2 million shares. Retail shareholders received full allotment despite the oversubscription. More news on MTN Nigeria PLC. They released their 2021 full-year audited financial statements, revealing some really healthy growth. Revenue grew 22.9% from 1.3 trillion naira to 1.65 trillion in the period 2021. Company also recorded a 45.5% growth in net profit to 298 billion naira from 205 billion in the previous period. And joining us to discuss all this, we're very glad to have MTN Nigeria's Chief Financial Officer, Modupe Kadri, in the studio with us. I think I should say Happy New Year, sir. I think. Yes. I think it's the first time I've seen you here.
Absolutely. I think the last we saw was at in Abuja.
Yes, that's correct. How this share offer? How else do you interpret 139% oversubscription?
I think first and foremost, we thank those who subscribed. I think it's a massive show of confidence in the company, and it has gone a long way in increasing the retail footprint of the shareholding of the company. If I throw some statistics at you, before we listed, we had 91 shareholders. At listing, it was about 800 odd. As at December, end of December last year, just before this offer results were around, we had about 10,000 shareholders. So having an additional 120,000 plus additional shareholders I think is a tenfold increase, which is a massive vote of confidence in the company.
Fantastic. Now, I'm being greedy here by asking you this next question. You've broadened your shareholder base. Any plans to increase it further in the near mid?
I think when we went to the market, we did say this was the Series 1. We announced that the MTN Group intends to sell down its shares from 78.8 to 65, which roughly is approximately 14%. So at the conclusion of this Series 1, we've just done about 3.2, 3.3%. So which means we have about an 11% odds to go. So we did say that once market conditions allows, hopefully we'll come back with the rest of the tranches in that series. So depending on market conditions. So I mean, this Series 1 raised over 111 billion. So that just shows the sheer size of the amounts on offer. So we would be definitely trying to come back to the market at some point for the Series 2 and complete the program. From a group point of view, there are desires that we can get this done, hopefully, before the end of this financial year.
Fantastic. Speaking of the financial year, the prior financial year, your data subscription growth, 516 billion naira. I think that is 55% growth in data subscription. What are you attributing that to? Population? More people at home? I mean, how do you contextualize those numbers?
Okay, I think everybody has agreed, excuse me, that post the pandemic or the pandemic, COVID-19, our behaviors have changed massively. The way we do things, the way we interact, the way we interact with the internet has increased. So there is a massive demand for data. Some people are still working at home. Some people have a hybrid, flexible, working model. So I think what we did was proactively invest. We accelerated our 4G rollout, which, 4G is the spectrum that gives you the best speeds for now, not to talk of the 5G, which in the auction that was concluded in December. So when that rolls out, you actually have faster speeds. So we rolled out, tried to make sure that our population coverage is now at over 70% for 4G. As against 60% in the previous financial year. So that helps, makes the data available. And the other thing that we need to understand is that we have about 49% smartphone penetration. And then as you're offloading traffic from, the 3G to 4G, that improves the user experience on the 3G. And those who have feature phones will also have a better data experience, albeit they are not on smartphones. So I think all these factors all added up to the growth. And it also tells you that Nigeria as a nation, in line with the digitalization agenda of the Federal Honorable Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, is desirous to play in that space. And Nigeria is definitely not left behind.
Fantastic. Thank you for that robust breakdown there. Voice. I've got these tech groups where we debate how far MTN's voice versus data will grow. Voice, I think that was 7% growth, but 819 billion. So you've got double-digit growth for data, single-digit growth for voice, but voice was still like 1.5 times more than data. So how do you strategize? What do you do when you see, you talked about your rollout for data. What's the strategy when you see voice and data growing at these rates?
Okay, so we've talked about our strategy, which is Ambition 2025. And the whole idea is that we're going to defend voice. We're going to, continue investing in that space, but focusing on the more near type of technologies or platforms. So you have digital, fintech, and the like. So if you also look at the same stats, which you pointed out, you'll find out that all the near segments are growing at a faster rate, which is what is expected. So voice would grow, but at a declining rate, and will still make a contribution. But definitely, if you look at the pie charts we shared on the revenue mix, our aspiration is to get data to about 50% of our revenues by 2025. So that gives you an idea of the trajectory in which we're headed in that space.
Fantastic. And your service revenue guidance, I think it was you're looking at 20% growth in the medium term. Are those the same triggers behind that guidance?
Okay, now, being a public listed company, of course, we have to ensure that, we provide a fair returns to the shareholders. And Nigeria currently is on high double-digit inflation. So first rule, you want to make sure that your revenues or your bottom line performance is growing ahead of inflation so that you're not actually destroying value for money. So when you look at the indications, where is that point we should aspire to be as a business in terms of ensuring those returns, then we feel that we should up our guidance from the mid-teens to the at least 20%, and that's exactly what at least 20% over the next 3 years.
Which means it could be higher. yeah, at least conservative.
Yes.
I thought this was very interesting. Your advertising spend, promotions, and so on and so forth, I think it was up by 45%, which I thought was interesting because, last year everybody was at home and things still grew. So what was the strategy behind increasing? Was it because the economy was reopening? What was the strategy behind increasing advertising?
Exactly. MTN is one of the most important brands or famous brands in Africa, the leading brand actually. So in that space, there is, you need to defend that. 1, 2, we also went into some partnerships, NFF, for instance, and all these are public information. And of course, like you rightly said, the economy was actually opening up, and there was need to also, top of mind awareness, put the brand ahead of people, in the face of people. So you'll have seen promos, campaigns. I'm sure you saw We Move campaign, which changed the narrative for most, and also helped, show the spirit, the winning spirit, or the can-do spirit, as we call it, of Nigerians. So all these things, and that's how it's going to go on as we moved from being an international company to be more of a Nigerian company with Nigerian content and promoting things like that. So that's how we're moving in that space. I think that explains that.
First stuff. I never know how to ask you about taxes. It's always, the last time we had you on the show, I think MTN Nigeria had paid the second highest taxes. There was a graph we had. I think second highest taxes in the whole entire country, second only to Dangote Cement. Your tax bill jumped another 47% in 2021. It contributes to government coffers. So does that continue to grow as your profits grow up and your net profit was up? So it's obvious that taxes will go up as well. How are you interpreting your tax bill?
I think that's a very, very important statistic that we need to put on the table, and it's often lost in the narrative. Apart from the direct taxes that we pay, which is your company income tax and your education tax, when you look at direct and indirect taxes, including levies, or basically the way we put it as things that are being contributed to the coffers of the government, it's in excess of 660 billion. Now, that's arising from our... So people look at the headline revenues, and to put it in context, that's actually twice the profit after tax.
Right.
Which means, and the shareholders are going to even get a fraction of that. And even when the shareholders do get a fraction of that, the government will be waiting to take the 10% withholding tax on that. So I think it's something that's usually lost in the narrative that we are a key player to enabling, the fiscal objectives of the government, and that's why it's important that we all work collaboratively. And like I did say the last time, we don't cut corners in our taxes. We pay what is due to the government is paid. They don't even have to ask. We pay as and when due, and that's why we probably don't have any issues with them. And so we'll continue having those engagements with the FAS and with all the respective government agencies, be it the customs for the duties, and so on and so forth. But that's something that we just felt we had to amplify, and thanks for picking that again. All
right, yeah, look, I love going through finance. This is my favorite part of the job, going through financial statements. Capital expenditure is another big one, 36.7% year-on-year rise, 408 billion naira in 2021. What's, as far as, what was behind that? What are you spending on? Is it 5G? What's behind the CapEx spend?
Okay, so the CapEx spend, like I did say, we did accelerate our site rollout, which is the major thing. We have over 30,000 kilometers of fiber infrastructure, which also helps improve the experience of the subscribers. So, and being a technology-intensive, capital-intensive business, you continue to roll out just to improve. At times, what we've even seen is that you could put up a new site, and within a few weeks or months, it starts to get congested, which suggests that you need to put additional investments. So the capex has gone up, but is within guidance. If you see, our guidance is about 18% capex intensity. That's capex over revenue, and it's going to go down. But one thing we did say, and we did say this on our investor call, that we would always continue to invest in growth opportunities, such that will give Nigerians the best possible experience and that we're not left behind. And that leads me to your take on the 5G. We did the auction. We're only waiting for the final license. Payment needs to be made before February 24 for both players, and I'm sure the NCC would communicate the outcome of that. Of course, that will also require further investment, so the capex numbers are bound to go up.
Fantastic. So I guess on 5G, as far as the rest of the year is concerned, I guess once the regulatory, sides of things are completed, we can expect, I guess, more developments later as the year progresses. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's the we've not invested that amount.
To not do anything.
Not to do anything. Yeah. So as long as the regulator gives the nod and we get, and all the parties are, the race is flagged off, then we would be willing to roll out 5G services as quickly as possible.
Fantastic. Finally, sir, I guess, I think all your other answers pretty much answer this next question. But how are you positioned for Nigeria's digital economy going forward? How would you see things?
I think we've been bold, and we're clear in our intent that we are a key enabler of that critical national infrastructure. And that's why we also collaborate with the security agencies, especially where these issues of vandalization happens, fiber cuts and all these things, which tends to, cause some ripples within that space. But in terms of our intent, in terms of our strategy, in terms of, enabling to brighten the lives of our customers, definitely we are. And that's why we're always engaging and supporting all the government initiatives in that space. And that's the only reason why we also bid for a 5G license, because that's the next step. As people are talking about Web 3.0,
exactly,
which is the next thing, that can only work when you have the right connection speeds. So people are talking about the Metaverse and all those things that are going in the digital space. And, the good thing is that Nigerians are not being left out, and they will not be left out. And all the things that are going to enable that, they can rely and count on us as a service provider to have their back in enabling that process.
Very exciting stuff. Really, really exciting future. Thank you so much, as always, for joining us. Modupe Kadri, Chief Financial Officer, MTN Nigeria. Appreciate your insights, sir.
Thank you very much.